Hello students, our next topic from endocrinology is the adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. These are the two portions of the adrenal gland, and you know where adrenal gland is located. Located on the top of the kidneys, both kidneys, and they are triangular in shape, also known as suprarenal gland. So the two portions, the outer one is the largest portion, which is the adrenal cortex, and inner portion is the adrenal medulla. Adrenal cortex is responsible for the steroid hormone secretions. The adrenal cortex, it has three zones as shown in this image: zona glomerulosa, the outer one, then the zona fasciculata, and finally the zona reticularis. Zona glomerulosa is responsible for the synthesis of mineralocorticoid or aldosterone. Zona fasciculata and reticularis are responsible for the formation synthesis of glucocorticoids, that is the androgens. This is the magnified section which shows the cortex, the three layers of the cortex, and then the adrenal medulla, which is responsible for the secretion of catecholamines. These are adrenaline and noradrenaline. The synthesis of adrenocortical hormones, these are synthesized from cholesterol. The cholesterol is converted into pregnenolone. The pregnenolone is converted into progesterone, that is a 21 carbon steroid. That is precursor for others in the 21 carbon series. Then these are the deoxycorticosterone, the corticosterone, and the aldosterone, which is the mineralocorticoid. This is because of the hydroxylation at C21, leading to these 21 carbon series products. These are the deoxycorticosterone, then the corticosterone, and aldosterone. If the steroid that has been previously hydroxylated at C17, leading to the production of 17-alpha hydroxypregnenolone, then finally into the HEA, which is the dehydroepiandrosterone. Finally, its conversion into androstenedione, and in the testes, that is converted into testosterone. It can be converted into estradiol, or the androstenedione can be converted into estrone, which then finally converts into estradiol. That is the oxidation of the A ring or aromatization to produce estrogen in the ovaries and the placenta, but not in the adrenal cortex or testes. And if there is C17 hydroxylation at this point, the progesterone is converted into 17-alpha hydroxyprogesterone, then further into deoxycortisol, and then into cortisol, which is the glucocorticoid. So these are the different steps which is involved in the formation of mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids, and sex steroids from the cholesterol, which is the precursor. But here it is not important for you to memorize these steps. These are the taken from the this image is taken from the chapter of biochemistry. You don't need to learn or memorize this diagram or these steps for physiology. It is just for your information. It was just to make you learn that how these things are synthesized, from where they come, from where they are synthesized. just to have a concept about it. You don't need to memorize it at all. Now once the hormone is synthesized, now the regulation of the secretion of these hormones. So hypothalamus, it secretes corticotropin releasing hormone which acts on the anterior pituitary gland. Anterior pituitary gland, it releases the ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. This hormone then acts on the adrenal cortex and causes the release of cortisol. Cortisol, it has a negative feedback mechanism on the anterior pituitary as well as the hypothalamus, inhibiting the secretion of CRH and ACTH further. So when the cortisol or glucocorticoid levels are chronically elevated, the secretion of CRH and ACTH, these are inhibited by the cortisol through negative feedback mechanism. Through this mechanism, the secretion of the hormone is regulated. The mineralocorticoid, which is the aldosterone, it is under tonic control of ACTH, but is separately regulated by renin-angiotensin system and by serum potassium. By renin-angiotensin system, as when there is decrease in the blood volume, the renin-angiotensin system is activated. Renin, an enzyme, it catalyzes the conversion of angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1, which is then converted into angiotensin 2 by ACE, or the angiotensin converting enzyme. Angiotensin 2, it acts on the zona glomerulosa of the adrenal cortex to increase the conversion of corticosterone to aldosterone. Aldosterone, when it secretes, it increases the sodium reabsorption, thereby restoring extracellular fluid volume and blood volume to normal. So it occurs in case of decreased blood volume. In case of hyperkalemia, increased aldosterone secretion is there. So aldosterone increases the renal potassium secretion, restoring serum potassium to normal. So the serum potassium and the renin-angiotensin system, these are the two systems for the regulation of aldosterone while it is under the tonic control of ACTH. The mechanism is separate. While the cortisol, it is regulated by this process. Now the actions of the glucocorticoids and the mineralocorticoids. The glucocorticoids, number one is the stimulation of gluconeogenesis. Glucocorticoid increase gluconeogenesis by number one, increasing the protein catabolism in the muscles and decrease protein synthesis, thereby providing more amino acids to the liver for gluconeogenesis. They decrease glucose utilization and insulin sensitivity of adipose tissue. They increase lipolysis, which produce more glycerol to the liver for gluconeogenesis. So the three mechanisms involved in the gluconeogenesis, that is the increased protein catabolism, decreased glucose utilization, and increased lipolysis. These are the three processes. Then the anti-inflammatory effects of glucocorticoids, they induce the synthesis of lipocortin, which is the inhibitor of phospholipase A2. And phospholipase A2, is the enzyme that liberates arachidonate from membrane phospholipids, providing the precursor for prostaglandin and leukotriene synthesis. And leukotrienes and prostaglandins, of course, are the inflammatory markers. They are involved in inflammatory response. So the glucocorticoids, they have the anti-inflammatory property by inhibiting the formation of precursor, that is the arachidonate. So acts as a anti-inflammatory, also has an anti-inflammatory action. And then the third one is the suppression of immune response. They inhibit the production of interleukin 2 and T lymphocytes, both of which are critical for cellular immunity. So In pharmacological doses, the glucocorticoids are used to prevent rejection of transplanted organs because they suppress the immune system. So used in the this process of prevention of the transplanted organ rejection. Then the fourth one is the maintenance of vascular responsiveness to catecholamines. Cortisol, it upregulates alpha-1 receptors on arterioles, increasing their sensitivity to vasoconstrictor effect of norepinephrine. When the alpha-1 receptors, these are upregulated on the arterioles, they increase the vasoconstrictor effect of the norepinephrine. They have the actions of mineralocorticoids or aldosterone that increase the renal sodium reabsorption, increase the renal potassium secretion, increase the renal hydrogenine secretion. As the aldosterone has role in regulating the BP, so when there is reduced blood volume, the more aldosterone secretion, it causes the renal sodium reabsorption, the renal potassium secretion, and increase the renal hydrogenine secretion. So this was the physiology of adrenocortical hormones, the glucocorticoids and the mineralocorticoids. The androgens or the sex hormones, these were discussed in another lecture, and a separate lecture of male and female reproductive systems. Let us summarize. The adrenal gland, it is located on the top of the kidneys, also known as suprarenal glands. It has two main portions, the cortex and the medulla. Cortex is the largest portion, and the inner one is the medulla. The cortex has three layers or three zones: zona glomerulosa, fasciculata, reticularis, can be memorized as GFR. Glomerulosa secretes for the synthesis of aldosterone, fasciculata and reticularis for the synthesis of glucocorticoids or cortisol and androgens. Then the synthesis of the adrenocortical hormones involve the following steps. No need to memorize it at all. Just we should have a concept how these are synthesized from cholesterol. The mineralocorticoids, the glucocorticoids, and the sex steroids. Then the regulation of the secretion of the glucocorticoids from the hypothalamus, the CRH acting on the anterior pituitary, releasing the ECTH, which acts on the adrenal cortex, release cortisol. Through negative feedback mechanism, when the level is chronically elevated, it inhibits the further secretion. The mineralocorticoid, it is under the tonic control of ECTH, but it is separately regulated by renin-angiotensin system and serum potassium levels. The actions of the glucocorticoids, the stimulation of gluconeogenesis by increasing the protein catabolism, by decreasing the glucose utilization and increasing the lipolysis. Anti-inflammatory effect by inhibiting the formation of the precursor arachidonate, precursor for the inflammation. The suppression of immune response, therefore used in prevention of transplant organ rejection. The maintenance of vascular responsiveness to catecholamines by upregulating alpha-1 receptors on arterioles. And the actions of the mineralocorticoids by increasing renal sodium reabsorption, increasing renal potassium secretion, and increasing renal hydrogenine secretion in case of blood volume loss. So this was all about the adrenal gland. See you with the next topic. Till then, take care and bye-bye.